Hello and welcome to the program. You know, there's an old saying in American politics that a conservative is just a liberal, a left-winger, who's been mugged by reality. But I tell you what, as crime around the U.S. turns once great Democrat-run cities into dystopian hellholes, even lawmakers are not safe. As reports come in that a Democrat congressman was carjacked at gunpoint just a mile from the U.S. Capitol.
Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas is back on Capitol Hill after being the victim of a carjacking last night. He says he was parking his car in southwest Washington, D.C., about 1 mile from the Capitol when it happened.
Came out of nowhere and they pointed guns at me. I do have a black belt, but I recognize when you got three guns. I looked at one with a gun, another with a gun, a third one behind me. So they said they wanted my car. I said, sure, you got to keep calm in those situations.
Scary stuff. But will this make the left revisit their soft-on-crime policies? Let's find out as we go, busting the narrative. Well, of course, we're all glad that Congressman Cuellar is all right. But the more we see violent crime rise in American cities, well, we see that much of it is the result of the defund the police movement that came from the Democrats themselves. And we have to ask the question, is it time to maybe look at what Democrats have wrought and are now victims of? I mean, hello? Washington, D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser, seen here gazing lovingly over the words Black Lives Matter painted on a D.C. street during the 2020 Summer of Love George Floyd riots, also presided over defund the police madness, and now, guess what? In Washington, D.C., having run the cops out of town, she's all out of options.
We need more officers. We don't have the officers that we need, and sadly, we've lost 300 to 400 officers in the last 4 years. We haven't had officers in our schools, and we have policies that make it difficult to recruit new officers.
Policies that make it difficult to recruit new officers, you say? Like telling them that they're not welcome? Well, anyway, if the D.C. mayor isn't waking up to the problem, what about the White House? After all, Washington is a federal city controlled ultimately by the federal government. Let's check in with Karine Jean-Pierre.
So if President Biden's policies are helping bring crime down, would he be comfortable with somebody borrowing his Corvette and parking it on the street overnight in Southeast D.C.?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. I'm just going to get into the facts about what this president has done.
We'll take that as a no then. But what about the problem of crime in D.C. and elsewhere? Does all the Democrat police bashing have anything to do with it?
If a member of Congress is not safe on the streets of the nation's capital, who is?
Look, we're grateful and relieved that the congressman is unharmed. We understand what communities are going through across the country, not just in D.C. That's why the president took action very early on in his administration to get the American Rescue Plan done, without the help of Republicans. That's why every time he puts forward his budget, he makes sure there are billions of dollars to deal with crime.
Wait, did she say it's the Republicans' fault?
The first follow-up would be, how are you going to blame Republicans for this? Isn't D.C. run by a bunch of Democrats?
I'm going to speak to what the president has done, right? The president has been very, very straightforward about what he has done to make sure that communities are safe. American Rescue Plan, not one Republican in Congress voted for it. Not one. There were billions of dollars in that plan, in that act.
Oh, yes, she did. But what about the Democrats? I mean, didn't 173 Democrats vote to lower the penalties for crimes like carjacking? Well, yeah, they did, as this ad from a congressional race in nearby Virginia would seem to suggest.
Murderers given reduced sentences. Carjackers given slaps on the wrist by pandering politicians. Not just the D.C. City Council. 173 House Democrats voted to support reduced sentences for violent crimes. So crazy, even President Biden won't support the anarchy.
Which brings us back to Representative Cuellar, who, to be fair, has in the past opposed defund the police rhetoric and has also called for some sort of control at the border. But while he may have historically opposed defund the police nonsense, he also voted for the so-called George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, a sweeping overhaul of law enforcement in America that would have removed, had it passed, immunity from police officers and redirected funding to community-based policing programs, whatever that means. So, will this scary event have him and others reconsidering their soft-on-crime votes? We'll see, but I reckon it's a good bet. Thanks for watching. I am James Morrow, and to support this channel, please like, share, and subscribe below. And I'll see you next week for more Busting the Narrative. Bye-bye.